Hello, my name's Dione Howard and I'm Chair of the Youth Voices Leadership Team. Welcome to our third season of Leadership is Language, Conversations with Thought Leaders, where we explore how we can show leadership by the language and communication styles that we use. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Wiradjuri people, traditional custodians of the land on which I'm speaking to you from today, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. I'm thrilled to announce the next guests in our Leadership is Language series, Shannon Speight and Emma Black. Last year, Shannon and Emma founded Black Box Co., an innovative software company that ingests raw data across the beef supply chain to inform prediction, forecasting, and key production insights. Emma and Shannon are both Xander McDonald Award winners. Emma, the inaugural winner in 2015, and Shannon in 2019. The Xander McDonald Award seeks to highlight talented and passionate young individuals working in the agricultural sector, providing a personal development package that includes Trans-Tasman mentoring trip and the ability to get up close and personal with leaders in the Australasian ag sector through the Platinum Primary Producers Group. Emma and Shannon both have young families and are successfully juggling life, similar to many of our young farming champions. Dear friend of the Young Farming Champions program, Mandy McKeesick, introduced me to these ladies, and Mandy shared one of Shannon's quotes, which really resonated, which is, "It's not about balance, you're always juggling balls, but you just have to work out which balls are made of rubber and which are made of glass." It's a pleasure to have you both joining us for Leadership is Language today. So welcome, Shannon and Emma.
Thank you.
Today, I'm looking forward to chatting with you both about launching a business, applying for awards, and maybe even tap into those juggling skills for keeping the balls in the air. Kick things off, I saw Shannon's post this week that the Black Box Co team cracked 2 milestones. The first of all being over 900,000 cattle on your database and over 15 million data points. And a little over a year ago, both of those figures were 0. So to start, I'd love to know how did Black Box Co come about, and how has the first year of business looked for you both?
Well, it's certainly been a wild ride, but one I think we've both really enjoyed. Black Box, I guess, started as a bit of an idea, as most things do. I was working on a project called the Northern Genomics Project for the University of Queensland. And in that, I was working with a lot of producers who were collecting a huge amount of fertility data and breeding data, basically crash slide. And then the university was trying to use it basically to create genomic predictions. And I would just kind of send back simple reports back to these farmers about how they did, something mocked up in Excel. And when it was nearing the end of the time, they were kind of like, well, what do we keep doing with this data? And I realized that a lot of people were collecting it and not utilizing it. And then obviously I caught up with him through the Xander McDonald Award. She was actually one of the judges in the year that I went through. Yeah, got to know her really well, being based in North Queensland. And really that's where we found that it wasn't just limited to breeding operations and that it was a problem throughout the whole supply chain. So I guess I'll hand it to Em. She kind of took it from there.
I guess, as Shen said, we kind of threw some ideas around initially, and Shen had this fabulous idea and initial drive to really create something. And then I think when we came together, we realised how much industry needed a solution to pull all of these fragmented data sets together. My background's been from animal nutrition, working on farm with producers, right through to also working in the abattoirs. So I could see it from that end of the supply chain coming back, and a real lack of understanding of a lot of that data that's already being generated, and a lack of ability for producers to make decisions from it. So it's a pretty incredible story, I guess. But that got us together. We really had an incredible opportunity through the Xander Award and an incredible network there to throw some ideas around and really do some good research before we threw ourselves out there and started Black Box. And I guess it just began from there. And we've really worked with industry from the start. Industry's really driven everything we've done. We work very closely with industry from farm right through to processors to ensure we're generating something that they need and it's useful and easy for them to use.
The initial meeting that I had was actually on my Xander Award trip. Just caught up with a general manager of one of the big pastoral companies and showed him a mock-up basically of what I could do with the data. And he said, like, you know, we need this, and we're on board, and they've been with us ever since. So it was constantly proof testing those concepts and then really listening to feedback. And I think that's one of the things that we really see is that this is completely built for producers. Like we both run a tech company, but we're not technical at all. And I think that's given us the advantage in seeing the growth that we've seen to go from, you know, 0 animals to 900,000 in our first year. And we've gone from just me and Emma working on it part-time to having 10 full-time employees. So yeah, it's been an amazing journey.
Wow, what a year. What a year of growth. That's amazing. Well, thank you, for explaining about the business. We might tap into later how people can get involved and hear more from you if they're keen to learn more about how it all happens. But we might jump into the next part of a part of your story that you've been fortunate enough to have had the experiences of the Xander Award. And similarly, amongst our Young Farming Champions community, we have a great support network to apply for awards. But sometimes for a lot of people, it's just about taking that first step and putting together that application. So each as recipients of both the Xander Award and many others along the way, how has that experience been, and how important would you say that awards have been along your career journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Black Box certainly wouldn't have come about without the Xander McDonald Award, but I think awards, I completely understand why people don't want to throw themselves out there and apply for awards, but it's really about taking that leap. And I think the way to look at it is an award might recognise something you've done, but the best thing that comes out of that is the opportunities and the follow-up after the award. And I think it makes you realise the things that you don't know or you haven't achieved as well. But certainly for me, the mentoring that's come out of these award programs has been incredible. And a good mentor, like, they offer you so much more than any course or training that you've had. Like, they really challenge you and challenge your thinking. And I think the unique thing through the Xander mentoring trip that we've experienced was you get this incredible network, this huge network of people, and you can get to meet all of them and really pick out or find who you work best with. But I would say to that, it is hard work. Like, you've really got to absolutely jump into these opportunities and really make the most of it. And I think that's something that Shannon and I certainly are very good at. Like, we'll never shy from an opportunity and never not go and meet someone and keep that relationship up. And I think you just learn over time. Like, it's scary starting out with mentoring, but I'd also say there's a lot of mentors that I've had that aren't through formal mentoring relationships as well. I think that's something always important to remember. You don't have to always go through a formal mentoring program, but would absolutely encourage anyone to throw themselves out there and give it a crack and apply for some of these incredible opportunities.
But although, like, the Xander Award has both been absolutely instrumental in changing our lives. And I think to an extent we both had somebody that kind of backed us and said, you know, you should really go for it. But it did take us to listen and actually apply for it. And, you know, it as Em says, it's kind of confronting, especially when you're asking referees to, like, back you and you think, you know, it sounds like you're good enough to be in this award. But I think both of us have also missed out on a number of awards, like, you know, probably throughout our whole lives. I know I certainly have. And so it's that teaches you just as much. You know, when you get knocked back from something, it can be really tough, but you take a lesson from that and you come back. And, you know, some people have applied for the Xander McDonald Award multiple times, and I think they come back stronger each time.
That probably leads in quite well to as well with reapplying if you get knocked back for an award and learning from that. But do you have any other tips for when you're putting together award applications and applying for things?
Yeah, just do your research. It's certainly like Shannon and I have sat on the committee for a few different awards and programs, and you can very clearly pick up the ones that have quickly thrown it together the night before and the ones that have really put the effort in, like ring people that have applied before. There's always a contact phone number on there. Do your research and find out what they're looking for and really put the effort in.
Fortunate enough to have you both speaking to you both today as both award recipients and then also sitting on panels. So it's great to have those insights from the other end as well too. Emma, as you mentioned, and I'm sure for both of you, having had mentors along the way and throughout the various opportunities that you've been involved in, are there any in particular that have stood out to you as your key mentors? And I'd be interested to know as well too, have they been from the agriculture industry or other parts of business?
The majority, I'd say nearly all of my mentors have probably been from agriculture, but certainly not just the beef industry, which I'm in, like they're from all different industries. And particularly through the Xander McDonald Award, where I learnt the most was from the lamb and dairy industries, speaking to people like everything from bankers to agronomists to consultants. But I think really stepping out of your niche is where you learn the most from that. I think I've had a number of mentors, and some of them wouldn't even probably think of themselves as my mentors. There's a couple that have really backed me over the last couple of years, but certainly Shan as well. Like, I think we mentor each other a lot now, but backing each other's incredible power in that and having someone believe in you. But certainly out of that platinum primary producer group, I'd say that Julie McDonald's definitely been one of my biggest mentors, and Shane McManaway. And they've always picked up the phone, always offered advice, always listened, and really challenged me as well. But there's so many. It's hard to really pick them out.
I'd echo that sentiment. I think most of mine have come from the agricultural industry in general, and some have come from a more sciencey background, from vet science and that kind of thing. But definitely had a number of, like, I guess, formal mentors and informal mentors. Persistent. If I resonate with somebody and I really love how they think about things and how they solve problems, then I will ring them constantly and ask for advice and run things by them. And yeah, there's probably a lot of people that wish they didn't give me their number. There's always something you can learn from everybody as well. I think there's also a number of people in our team at Black Box that, you know, come from the tech side, and they're mentoring us in leading a tech company and how we should think about problems. So it's definitely not what I don't think of a mentoring relationship as necessarily hierarchical, that it's somebody above you or older. But honestly, you can learn from everybody involved in your life, and we are certainly learning a lot from our team. And I think that's what's made Black Box such a good success and really developed us both personally as well.
That and industry as well, like producers, particularly when I was in extension and consulting, like 90% of what you learned and used, you learned from the producers and seeing what they were doing on the ground as well. So yeah, I think it's to how you look at mentoring, I guess.
Yeah, it's not always that formal mentoring program relationship. It's all of the other parts, that all of those other really important relationships.
Absolutely.
So the next spot that I've got for us to tackle is one that's probably one of my particular interests. So I'm always interested and intrigued how busy, successful people structure their day to make it all happen. And so we're sitting here on a Monday morning, and well, you might always do interviews on a Monday morning, I'm not sure, but what does a typical day look like for each of you, and what are your non-negotiables to make it work?
For me, honestly, I'm obsessed with reading about this as well from everybody's, but I feel like you've got to find your own secret recipe, because a lot of really successful people don't have families or farms and stuff like that, so it's hard. But a typical day for me really depends on the kids. But this morning I woke up, one of my non-negotiables is exercise. So I exercise about 90 minutes every day, and whenever I have to fit that in, I make sure it works. So today it had to happen at 5 a.m. So I got up at 5 a.m. But then normally taking the kids to daycare, which is a fairly long drive, get to listen to a lot of podcasts, call a few people, and then we normally have some meetings, which we try to structure. Well, I try to structure more important meetings in the morning, and then things that require less brain work in the afternoon. And my workday is probably fairly short because of the kids. So I've got two kids, about 2 and 1, and they both go to daycare. So try to spend some time with them in the afternoon, and then if I have to pick up the laptop again in the evening. So I almost work like a 6-hour work day in the normal traditional hours, and then probably another couple, 2-3 hours afterwards. But I guess it's fairly boring. There's no secret sauce.
So mine were relatively similar, but I always try to wake up in the morning before the kids get up and have a coffee and try and do some reading. And that, if depending on the day, like if there's something that 5 to 6 a.m. is like a power hour for me, if I have to get something done before the kids wake up. But depends on the day. Always start out, my boys are 2 and 4, so go to kindy and daycare, so get them organised, spend a bit of time with them and send them on their way for the day. But then I'm similar to Shan, like I'm most productive in the morning. So really try to do any problem solving or development type stuff in the morning that you've really got to concentrate on. And then we tend to have a lot of time on Zoom with industry meetings or different things over the day. I spend quite a bit of my time talking to industry partners and working closely with our current customers and trial partners, as well as our development team, and communicating like the feedback from industry back into the development team. And then the afternoon, I'm not as productive, so tend to keep phone calls and that type of thing, record keeping, that type of stuff in the afternoon, and always try to get the boys about 4:30 so we can have a couple of hours family time in the afternoon before they go to bed. And yeah, that's probably most days are similar to that.
One thing that we do every day is, like, since our business has grown, Em and I are starting to, we used to do everything together, had to divide and conquer. So every day we kind of catch up and kind of run down the day events. And that's almost, it's like a little ritual, and I really enjoy it. It's, you know, just the kids can be there. It might be mayhem, but we both understand and we both catch up on the important things, earmark what we have to do the next day, and kind of reset.
Team catch up to kick the day off. So obviously even in describing each of your days, there's a few competing priorities between business and family and fitting in some things for yourselves as well. So what would your top tips be for people in our audience who are listening who are juggling a few different priorities, how to best do that, if you have any insights there?
My number one would be like being able to take a bit of a assessment or an audit of your own time, because I used to think there's no way I could fit 90 minutes of exercise into my day. And then I quit social media basically, and I got a lot more than 90 minutes in. So just doing a bit of a time audit and realizing where you are wasting time and where you're not. I think there's a tendency in this day and age to like really aspire to be busy, and everybody is busy. I remember my mum was in like hotel quarantine and told me that she was really busy, and that's when I thought, my God, this is out of hand. Like, no one's that busy that they can't do the things that they want to do or that they love to do or that's important. And so that's really been instrumental for me in terms of structuring my day and identifying what are my non-negotiables, and they don't have to just be work non-negotiables. I think if you're like, you are the most important person in your business, and if you fall apart, then everything else can fall apart. And so you kind of, and same in your family, you can't pour from an empty cup. So making sure that you look after yourself, and then you're looking after everybody else, and taking those important meetings and doing the hard things first. If I don't want to do something, I normally have to do that first up. And, you know, if something rolls on to the second or third day in my diary, I go, well, is this really important or am I procrastinating? And you just got to ask yourself those things. I think also saying no to things is probably what we've got a little bit better at. That's important, really assessing what can look like as an opportunity and really going, okay, do I have time for this? But also, can I commit to this? We were both studying MBAs and we put our MBAs on pause because Black Box has taken off, and that was a really hard thing to do. But ultimately what I found was that I wasn't committing to it, and I wasn't getting out what I should be from it. Just coasting along and making sure that I could pass the subjects to get a certificate at the end of the day wasn't what I set out to do. So it was more important to go, okay, that's not a priority right now.
Yeah, absolutely agree with Shan's comments. And I think communication is a huge thing. We're very open within our whole team really around communication, but particularly Shan and I, but also with your family, really working out those priorities, but also ensuring you've got a team around you, the right people around you. And that's something that we've worked really hard on within Black Box, and being transparent with a lot of things so that we know if we can't handle that today, someone can, and training your staff and having that communication to ensure your team can always be there, or someone can always cover it. But certainly time management's been a big thing, and like we even find now we have to block bits of time out in the day where there's no distraction, just to get things done. And I think one of the hardest things is accepting that that's okay. Certainly is a juggle, but I think we're getting better at it each week.
Progress, not perfection, is pretty well our mantra.
Flexing the muscle of the time management, I think, is something that's a good one to work on. And so I suppose we've sort of already touched on it, but particularly Shannon, we're talking about your commitment to exercise and fitting in that in your day. With coming back to self-care and looking after yourself as an individual, is that important to you both? And if so, what does that look like? If there's anything else you want to add in?
I'm one of those people that has to stick to rules, otherwise I just completely fall off the bandwagon. So I give myself a few rules that I follow every single day, regardless of whether it's a weekday or a weekend. And that's generally 90 minutes of exercise. I normally don't eat before 11 or 12, otherwise I just get sluggish, and I try to stay standing as much as possible. And I have these wham bam standing desks. And I guess I think that's so important. Also mental health, I meditate as well, only for like 10 minutes, otherwise my attention span kind of wanders. But I think that's one of the things that I probably learned from one of our other team members, Sam Fry. He's really, really dedicated to those things. Kind of inspires me to go, okay, that is important, and it is a non-negotiable, because I'm so much better for doing those things regardless of how long it takes. So those are the things that I really stick to every day.
I think Shan makes a really good point there. Like, you're better to have less time at work but being really productive than being there for 2 hours longer but being sluggish, I guess. But certainly I have to get myself, because we're remotely based, work from home, I've got to get myself out of the house to clear my head. And certainly in the afternoons, going for a walk with the kids and getting out of the house to make my brain switch off for a while. I've got a really cool app as well that does small, like 10-minute workouts or sessions, and I find that really useful during the day. Otherwise, I find it very difficult just to switch my brain off for that time. But it's absolutely so important. And I think it's not until you go through some really tough weeks or some tough times with your family where you think, geez, you've got to get better at this, and you realize how important it is. But I think it's just working out what works best for you.
I think on that, we're not great at taking days off, but we're getting better at it. I think there was a time where we were like, well, when we take a day off, the whole business stops. And now we're at the point where it's like, okay, no, we can take a day off, and that's really important to do that. We've got pretty flexible hours with our whole team, because burnout, especially in a startup, is one of the biggest risks. And I think, especially in the tech world where we idolize, Elon Musk's and stuff like that, that work 18-hour days, schedule their days in 15-minute increments, that is not something to aspire to, I think. Like, at the end of the day, all that does is make you fall apart and your family if you've got one. So it's really, really important to look after yourself and recognize when you're getting close to that burnout and taking a day off or an afternoon off or a couple of hours off before you do that, because as Em said, it's about productivity and not being busy the whole time, but being productive.
It's great to hear how people do take the time to make sure that they are looking after themselves when they are kicking all their goals in business, which is what we do also. That's the front face that we do tend to see. So it's good to understand, I guess, all that's happening in the background. And I'll be keen, Emma, to see the app that you use. I'll have to grab the name of it off you.
Send it to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I would love to come back to the wonderful business that's got you both working together, Black Box Co., and for you guys to share with our audience today about, if they're keen to know more about Black Box Co., how they can find out more, get involved. We've got a community that's scattered across Australia and the world, so I'm sure there'll be a few interested people out there that want to learn a bit more. So yeah, take it away with how they can find out some more.
To find out more, so we have a website, so just blackboxco.com.au. Certainly, we're very active on LinkedIn, sharing a lot of stories and things through there. So I guess we are still in development or in early commercialisation now. We're going to commercialise next year, but we are still taking on partners now, industry partners now. We're taking on sort of one a week at the moment, and our team's growing quickly. So we're very open. We will talk to anyone and show anyone a demonstration of what we're working on, even keen to speak to industry people and seek feedback. But yeah, just get in contact with us. You can email info@blackboxco.com.au as well, and one of us will get straight back to you.
And is your team scattered all across Australia as well, or beyond?
So our whole team's in Australia. We've got the tech team, or the developers, are in Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. And then our ops team are all based regionally and remotely. We're all basically based on farms or based within the communities. Dewandin, kind of west of Roma, and Capella. I'm up in Ravenshoe and am in Mission Beach. So we're all scattered around.
Your Zoom backgrounds or wherever you're all communicating from each day would be quite interesting, I would imagine, when the team gets together.
Yeah, there's a few Toyota Cruisers in there, that's for sure. And, sometimes we catch them when they're out hailing wieners or something like that. But no, it's fantastic.
Thank you so much, Emma and Shannon, for joining us today for Leadership is Language. Thank you for sharing your insights into starting a new business, making the most of awards that you've won along the way, and how you put it all together and make it all happen. I think that there's so many takeaways for everyone in our team of young farming champions and our wider community, whichever stage of career or life we are in. So thank you both very much.
Thank you, Dione.
Thank you.